I never thought I'd become that neighbor, the one people whisper about, the one who took things too far. But when you push someone long enough, eventually they stop being polite. And when they stop being polite, well, things get interesting. It all started with Susan. Now technically, her name wasn't Susan. But if there was ever a person who embodied the full, unfiltered HOA, enforcing, rule-quoting, boundary-ignoring spirit of a Susan, it was her. I bought my property about 2 years ago. It's a beautiful stretch of land just outside a suburban development, 5 acres. A modest house, a large barn, and most importantly, privacy. That was the entire reason I chose it. No HOA, no committees. No monthly meetings about mailboxes, colors at grass height. Freedom. What I didn't fully realize at the time was that my land bordered a neighborhood that did have an HOA, and not just any HOA. A hyperactive, rule-obsessed one led by Susan herself. At first, things were fine. I kept to myself, waved politely when I saw neighbors, maintained my property. No loud parties, no junk piles, nothing that would reasonably bother anyone. Susan introduced herself within the first week. She marched up my driveway, clipboard in hand, smiled tight, and rehearsed. "Hi, I'm Susan, president of the HOA next door," she said. "I just wanted to go over some community standards with you." I remember blinking at her, confused. "Not part of the HOA," I said. Her smile twitched slightly, but she recovered fast. "Why no, but your property is adjacent, and what you do here can affect property values." That was the first red flag. I politely declined her guidelines and made it clear I wasn't interested. She didn't like that, not one bit. Over the next few months, the suggestions started rolling in. First, it was my fence. Apparently, my wooden fence didn't match the aesthetic of the neighborhood, even though it was entirely on my land. Then it was my barn. "Too rustic," she said. Then my driveway gravel. "Too industrial looking." Every time, I reminded her. Not your property, not your business. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Susan escalated. She began filing complaints with the county noise complaints, zoning concerns. Even a ridiculous claim that my property was being used for commercial livestock operations because I had 2 goats. Yes, 2 goats. Every complaint was investigated and dismissed. I was well within my rights every single time, but it was exhausting. Still, I held my ground. I figured eventually she'd get bored. I underestimated Susan. About a year after I moved in, she came to me with a new proposal. She claimed the HOA was planning a large community event, a summer festival, and said their common areas weren't big enough. Then she casually suggested my land would be perfect for it. I actually laughed. "No," I said. "Absolutely not." Her expression hardened. "It would be good for community relations," she insisted. "I'm not part of your community," I replied. That was the moment things shifted from annoying to personal. For the next few weeks, she went quiet. Too quiet, no complaints, no visits, nothing. And that should have worried me more than it did, because Susan wasn't the type to give up. She was the type to plan. The day it all blew up started like any other Saturday. I woke up early, made coffee, and stepped outside to enjoy the quiet morning air. That's when I heard it. Distant at first, a low rumble, engines, big ones. I frowned and walked toward the front of my property. My driveway is long, about a quarter mile from the gate to the house, so it took a minute before I could see anything. But when I did, I just stood there. Buses, one after another, pulling up to my gate. I counted them. 1, 2, 3, 10. 10 full-sized charter buses. I thought I was hallucinating. The first bus driver got out and walked up to the gate, looking confused. Then another. Then more people started stepping off the buses. Families, kids, coolers, folding chairs, a full-blown crowd. I rushed down the driveway. "What's going on?" I shouted. One of the drivers turned to me. "We're here for the HOA Summer Festival," he said. "This is the location, right?" My stomach dropped. "No," I said slowly. "No, it is absolutely not." He frowned and showed me his paperwork. There it was, my address, listed as the event venue. I didn't even need to guess who was behind it. "Susan," I looked at the growing crowd. Dozens, then hundreds of people now milling around outside my gate, confused and impatient. Then I saw her, standing near the front, clipboard in hand, smiling. She walked up like she owned the place. "Oh good, you're here," she said brightly. "We were worried you might not be home." I stared at her, trying to process the sheer audacity. "You told them to come here?" I asked. "Well, yes," she said. "As we discussed, your property is perfect for the event." "We did not discuss that," I snapped. "I said no." She waved a hand dismissively. "You were hesitant. But I knew once you saw how important this is for the community." "Susan," I interrupted, my voice flat. "You brought 10 buses of people to my private property without permission." The smile slipped. Just for a second, then it came back, tighter. "It's already happening," she said. "Let's not make a scene." That's when something in me clicked. She thought she had me cornered. She thought social pressure would force me to give in. She thought wrong. I took a slow breath. Then I turned, walked back to my truck, and grabbed the remote for my front gate. It's a heavy-duty steel gate. Normally, I leave it open during the day. Not this time. I hit the button. The gate began to slide shut with a loud, unmistakable metallic grind. Susan's smile vanished. "What are you doing?" she demanded. I didn't answer. I walked back up to the gate as it closed completely, sealing off the entrance. Hundreds of people now stood on the outside, looking in, confused, murmuring. Then I reached through and locked it, with a solid, final click. "You can't be serious," Susan said, her voice rising. "Oh, I'm completely serious," I replied. "This is private property. You and your guests are trespassing. You're ruining the event." She snapped. "You've never had an event here," I said. "You had a fantasy." The crowd was getting restless now. People were asking questions. Kids were whining. Drivers were checking their watches. Susan turned back to me, desperation creeping in. "Just open the gate," she said, her voice lower now. "We'll be quick. A few hours, that's all." Her face flushed red. "I already paid for everything," she hissed. "The buses, the catering, the entertainment. Sounds like a you problem." That's when she lost it. She started yelling, accusing me of being selfish, unneighborly, even threatening legal action. I let her rant. Then I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the county sheriff," I said calmly, "to report trespassing and unauthorized use of my address." That shut her up fast. "You wouldn't dare," she said, but there was no confidence left in her voice. I already had the number dialing. Within 15 minutes, 2 sheriff's deputies arrived. They took one look at the situation, 10 buses, a massive crowd, a locked gate, and immediately started asking questions. Explained everything. Showed them the paperwork the driver had given me. My address, my property. No permission. Susan tried to spin it, of course. Claimed there'd been a miscommunication. The deputies weren't buying it. At all. They told her very clearly that she had organized an event on private property without consent, directed hundreds of people there, and was now responsible for removing them immediately. What followed was chaos. Drivers scrambling to coordinate departures, people complaining loudly. Vendors calling for instructions, and Susan, she looked like she was about to implode. It took nearly 2 hours to get everyone out. 2 hours of noise, frustration, and public embarrassment. I didn't unlock the gate once, just stood there and watched. When the last bus finally pulled away, the road fell silent again. Susan lingered. Of course she did. She walked up to the gate one last time, her expression a mix of anger and humiliation. "This isn't over," she said quietly. I met her gaze. It is for me, I replied. Then I turned and walked back up my driveway. I didn't look back. In the weeks that followed, things changed. The complaints stopped. Completely. Susan avoided me whenever possible, and word spread fast. Turns out, a lot of people in that neighborhood were already fed up with her. This incident was just the tipping point. A few months later, I heard she was voted out as HOA president. I can't say I was surprised. As for me, I still enjoy my 5 acres of peace and quiet. My fence is still the same, my barn is still too rustic, and my goats are still living their best lives. But now, when I step outside with my morning coffee, there's one thing I don't hear anymore, Susan. And honestly, that's the best outcome I could have asked for.